You now tuned in to the Gumptown Podcast. I'm your boy Doug B. We ain't got nothing to talk about, but we got something to talk about. Let's go. Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumptown Podcast, episode 13. I'm your boy Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving this podcast a shot. Today's guest, I met this gentleman back at the Alabama State University in fall 2007. Shortly thereafter, we became frat brothers. A couple years after that, we graduated during the same semester and just been cool ever since. He's one of the most charismatic individuals you'll ever meet. He is the founder and owner of Young and Debt Free, and I'm pretty sure you all will be inspired by his story. Let's give a warm Gumptown round of applause for MJ Bridges. MJ, bro, what's going on with you, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? Happy whatever day this is right now, but we're gonna say it's a happy day, man. So how are you doing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All is well. All is well, man. First things first, I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me for a few minutes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for allowing me to be on the platform, bro. Anytime, bro. I'm ready for this, bro. You've talked about this. I remember. And look at us, we're here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For the people who don't know who MJ Bridges is, man, tell them a little bit of your story, where you from and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. Okay. So I am originally from Racine, Wisconsin. So Wisconsin stand up. And if you know where that is, guys, we border in Lake Michigan, Midwest born. And the city is nestled between right in between Chicago and Milwaukee. So if you look at Chicago, go take your index finger and just go up a little bit on the map. We're right there, south of Milwaukee. And yeah, my upbringing was, I start with the big positives. It was fun. I've always been like a fun person. I always say that I valued education. I valued community, a really big part of the community. And I say big part, I mean, like, I was just involved. I was that child that was involved at, like, YMCA Teen Achievers. And I remember we did like youth in government, at the YMCA, or student leader at the high school or something like that. I was always involved in school and attracted to learning. And I also grew up in a small church there. So I have a church background. It's funny because I haven't been a member of a church in probably like 8 years. But but I have a huge spiritual or church background. I was a part of like the male chorus growing up, played the drums for the church, things like that. My first job was at the church, 12 years old. And my grandfather was the pastor and owner of the church. My grandma was evangelist and first lady. So yeah, kind of like a pastor's grandkid. And what a type of background I have. The sports a little bit, and I love sports as because it teaches so much to a kid. So if your kid is not into any type of sport, force them for a little bit. But I played basketball, and then I did like cross country. So I'm an avid runner to this day. Haven't hooped in a while. And then, yeah. The challenging part about my upbringing was just, grew up in a very just shoot drugs. So, it kind of infiltrated the family a little bit. My mom was on drugs for a little bit of part of her life, and then she, just struggled to keep us. So we were, and my dad was in prison to 33, probably like 28 years of my life. And she's still there. Get out next year. So we talk about that later because that's a part of this financial piece that I talk about. As I get older and have parents that I have to consider, helping. But those were challenges that I faced, and a lot of really kids in my neighborhood faced, and in that area, Wisconsin. Yeah. So then I went to. So yeah, y'all got a lot right there. And then I went to again, college and things like that was always attractive to me. I was involved in so many pre-college programs for first gen and low-income students. I went on HBCU college tours. ended up going to Alabama State University, where I met your boy Doug B, and fell in love with ASU. Man, I still have video recordings from freshman year, like little tape cartridges of me going around campus just recording everything that I saw. And from there, I went to Indiana and got a master's at University of Indianapolis. I started my teaching career in Indianapolis and came to Atlanta 8 years ago. And so what I love, it concluded like this. I am a person who I consider to be a child of God and a person who uses my gifts and strengths of positive thinking, having futuristic visions, and connectedness. I truly feel connected to probably 99% of the people that I met. And I use that to educate and lead. That's one of my, or a big critical, or a big piece of my purpose in life.
Wow, what a story, man. I mean, and hats off to you for not letting for not letting your upbringing deter you from going on to do greatness, because you could have very well fell into that lifestyle. But yeah, man, I commend you for, even if you didn't recognize it then, you had a vision for your life. You knew you subconsciously knew that you didn't want to stay in racing and get caught up in what you grew up around. So hats off to you for being able to have enough courage to leave that environment and make your way down to Montgomery.
Wow, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. It's some fire burning in me, and I'm grateful to God for it, and I'm just happy for everyone who was around me. All the adults, and again, the community figures. I never um, I talk about them a lot. That's why I'm a big advocate for certain programs and community programs that help kids who just really have a really difficult time at home, and their parents mean well, but they just don't have the resources and the knowledge to help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Definitely. Hey, good stuff, man. Like I said, hats off to you. I know your story, but a lot of people out there don't know your story. And how you just broke down everything, how you just went through the transition of growing up and making your way to Montgomery, and what you're doing now, continuing to use your gifts to empower people, man. That's awesome. Let's talk about,
Thank you.
yes, sir. Let's talk about where your gifts have taken you now. Let's talk about Young and Debt Free. What products,
Oh,
what products and services do Young and Debt Free offer?
bye
Tell us
bye
about that.
bye. That's not about that money back, huh? No, well, yeah. So Young and Debt Free. Right now, I can say like the mission or the vision of Young and Debt Free is to really build a generation of debt free young professionals who they value self autonomy, and purpose, and wealth. Those three things: wealth, self autonomy, and purpose. So that's how I envision it. And so, what am I doing to get to that vision or help create that? I teach primarily young adults, and I say young adults. I mean, yeah, I could say under 40, but right now it seems like I'm in this 16 through about 30-year-old range. I teach them really basic principles of managing their money. So we're talking about budgeting, budgeting. And it's because budgeting is such a multifaceted thing. And from debt management, of course, what is credit? We go down to the terms, and we go down to also applying them. And I do that. How did it all happen? I said I was in a lot of debt. And then my background, again, the background that I gave you, I didn't come from a household that managed money well or had money for, we was living on assistance, of course. And we didn't have a lot. And when I moved to, let me back up. So then when I moved to my aunt at 10. It was a more stability. And she was considered what I consider working class or low middle class. She became a nursing instructor at the college there, at the college. But seeing the different type of lifestyles moving in, being with my parents versus being with my aunt, totally different lifestyles.
Mhm.
But all of that plays a part of how I thought about money, how I thought about living, how I thought about success, all that. So young and debt free, I love working with a lot of kind of first gen or these low income adults or college students, if you will, because I'm primarily be talking to a lot of college programs because a lot of those kids don't know, you know, basic financial foundational things, balancing like their debit card, credit health, getting credit cards, you name it, really. And so that's what I do. So I do lectures and workshops on budgeting and building their credit.
Man, I mean, man, that's so awesome, man. That's great. And like I said, man, young and debt free, man, you're doing some awesome things, man. Like you educating the youth. You, you basically the students that's coming into your program at 16, 17, they are going to be light years ahead of their peers. And to be honest with you, ahead of people that are 10 years older than them because you're taking time to educate them on financial literacy, man. And like you said, to your point, you got in a lot of debt because you just didn't have those resources to educate you. But shout out to you for seeing that problem that you had in your own life and deciding, hey, I don't want any other young guys to go young men or women go through what I went through. And
Mm-mm. Mm-mm, because there's
because
money out here, bro. And I mean, you know it, like, and you
yep,
get to, especially those who's has decided to go to college and things like that. And maybe they pick up, even if they don't pick up student loan debt, because guess what? I didn't have really student loan debt leaving undergrad. I had
like
$3,300.
yeah, likewise.
Yeah, it
Shout out to them
was the master's
scholarships.
program. It was the master's programs. And then it was also just mismanaging credit cards. And I got into consumer debt heavily, especially right after college. And I rushed into things and I just didn't have the guidance. I didn't have anyone leading me. I was very impulsive with my buying and irrational. I just didn't understand it or didn't even have time in my life to reflect and really think about how I was spending. And so that's when it wasn't until I moved to Atlanta about 6 months after I was in Atlanta. In Atlanta, July 2013. It was February 2014 when I realized, yo, I suck at money. I
Right.
suck at, and yes, I have my master's and, I'm just making a teacher's salary, and at the time I was making like just like $48,000. And
Right.
I didn't know how to manage that. I didn't know how to identify my needs and wants. I didn't track my expenses or, figure out different ways of saving. And it was horrible. And so it wasn't until like that January when I embarked on my debt free journey. And it's changed my life because it gave me that foundation that I needed. And now, things are much better. And I could say I'm happy about where I am, and my outlook financially is very positive.
No, man, that's great, man. And I mean, and trust me, I definitely can attest to everything you said in terms of coming out of college with no debt. But man, once you get into adulthood, they don't tell you how to manage that. And I'll tell you one thing I learned about maxing out a credit card. And thank goodness I got I got out of that situation. But I know from experience, and I'm pretty sure this is something that you should share with your students. Hey, listen, you should tell you say, hey class, let me tell you why you don't want to be in debt. Because when you owe everybody, you don't have any money left for yourself.
Hey,
Because when
the
you owe
principal.
Visa,
Mhm.
man, and think about it, and please, and I'm pretty sure you already putting them up on game, but I'll just share my word of encouragement. Please don't pay the minimum payments because you'll be paying on that thing forever.
Oh my goodness. I'll do the simulation and show them, how
Okay.
long it takes if you're paying a minimum payment. Like just simple interest, things that they learn, well, supposed to maybe starting in eighth grade, and just how that's really applied. And that so many consumers, we don't even know the interest rates on our credit cards or these things that we're loaning. And just to show them like, hey, this is what's taking place behind the scenes. Every day there's a daily interest being applied to your balances. And so that's just showing them those I say the simple things. The simple things are the most powerful,
Yeah.
and you know, to build on to it, and I just build on to it with them. Like if you can get this right first, I feel like I guarantee that your financial, like whatever your goals are, they're gonna work out better. And I, with Young and Debt Free, you know, I talked about the vision of having, you know, the generation of adults, and one of the kind of mottos I say is like, hey, you can get this right first, and you can, because this helps clear your mental space too.
Mhm.
So this financial thing, if you get, you know, this foundation and core, this core of it right, is going to help your mental state, which then helps build your creativity for things that you're passionate about, you know, and so you can be able to do things a little bit more that you're passionate about, because you're gonna need money. You're gonna need the money to help fund your dreams,
Right.
and you're gonna need money to be right too, just so you could be healthy.
Right. Man, that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. Man, and let's transition into what I always want to ask entrepreneurs when they come on to the podcast. Let's talk about the aha moment, the action, and the audacity. So it sounds like you got to Atlanta in 2014 and realized that your money management skills were, they needed some polishing up, and they needed some
Mhm.
adjustments. And shout out to you for taking inventory of that and identifying that. So let's go into, you get yourself situated financially. Outside of doing that for yourself, what else sparked the idea for you to start the brand? Because I mean, I know you did it for yourself, which is awesome, man, and I commend you
Mhm.
for that, man. But what was that? What was that aha moment, man, that sparked the idea to start a brand?
I wasn't even thinking about any of this. It was a frat brother. I want to give it a Foots. And you met Foots, Monte. Monte, Foots is a frat brother, big brother I need to contact soon.
Yes, sir.
Either message me, because I was talking about the journey, man. I was working so hard. It was ridiculous. I'm like 26 in Atlanta. I'm working 4 jobs.
Mhm.
Um, I'm working as a high school teacher, and I was in the classroom at the time. And then I would leave work and go tutor. Literally, I would hurry. I'll be the first teacher out the door. I mean, move over, students. You know, like the dude on Hangover when he was leaving as soon as like I was like, move, rush into my car, and then I would go tutor, like 15 minutes away. And then I had another tutoring job on the weekend. So it's two tutoring jobs, my high school teaching job. And then my fourth job was at a nightclub, Sweet Lounge. Shout out to Sweet Lounge in the A. I love that place. Still rocking to this day. So Sweet Lounge had just opened up. I was probably one of the second kind of, if I could say, cohort of hires when this place opened. And I had the time of my life in there. And I was just in there Saturdays from like 7 p.m., but I was there till like 4 in the morning. And
Wow.
I wasn't a bartender. I wasn't even a bar back. I wasn't even a server. I was a table busser. It was a very humbling experience, right? A lot of people didn't even know I was a teacher. My coworkers there didn't know till like 6, 7 months in. It's like, wait, you a teacher? Like I was like, yeah. And so I was like, this is my fourth job. And really I had such a good time there because I used to DJ. If anybody know me, I know I love to party and host. So I was at a time of my life. I'm 26 and I'm working at one of the most jumping clubs in the A. What? And so I would table bus, but I was taking that money, and it was just tips, and they was paying us minimum wage as a table busser. Typically, you just get tips and you get like $2, but they was paying us minimum wage, and like so $7 an hour, and then I was getting tips, cuts from tips. Like I get it cut from the server, cut from the cocktail waitresses, and things like that. And I was moving. I was just using that money to like eat with for the week. But beyond that, I mentioned all that story because that's the story I was given on social media.
Right.
Okay, people saw me working. I was talking about debt heavily because I was like, yo, I don't think enough of us is talking about this. Am I the only one going through this? And then at the end of that year, I paid off like 20 to 25,000. And one of our frat brothers hit me, like he's in financial services. Now but he handled the money. He handled like the health squads. And he was like, yo, a lot of my clients are concerned about giving their wealth to their kids because the kids lack financial discipline. They don't know how to budget. He was like, it's a huge problem in the industry. Like, it's real. I was like, you think so? He's like, yeah, I know. So that's what I do. And then he was like, and then just in general, debt everywhere, like, and people don't know how to manage money. And you've done something extraordinary by paying off this much, your discipline and then the skills or whatever. And he's like, and you a teacher and you energetic to the mud. He's like, that's it. I said, you think so? He's like, yeah. And so I just sat on it for a while. I feel like that was like some fall, like around October, like, I don't know, 2015 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I started then researching other people's like brands, like what people were doing, people who weren't, I didn't get a degree in finance or anything like that or have certifications, but I started seeing, other people on social media, build a brand around this and things like that. So I was just at that pause, that bell. But yeah, I saw other people on social media like build a brand around it. And yeah, it was summer 2016. I was in Florida. I was with a friend of the family and his wife, and she just gave me another set of confirmation, and I came back to Atlanta, and Young and Debt Free was born, and it was born as like a blog. It literally started as a blog, and that didn't last long. I only like writing, so it started as a blog. Then it went to like I started doing like YouTube videos, and I really didn't find my lane until I had the opportunity. Shout out to Tier from Movers and Pacers. I don't know if she knows how impactful when she asked me to speak for a group of freshmen. I still have the picture from Georgia Tech. And she was like, yeah, I think you should just, I'm like, man, I'm kind of nervous about it. I'm like, what am I about to talk about? Whatever. So I created like some slides and I just was talking about my journey. I mentioned from college to now, and I went debt free fully at the time, but I paid off probably like 50,000 at the time, and then that led to so that was a big. When I was in there, I was like, oh, this is it right here. This is my lane with Young and Debt Free. It's not a blog. It's not even a vlog. It's this giving lectures, like going inside of classrooms and workshops, whatever. I really enjoyed it, and it makes sense because I'm a teacher. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is what I can do, but do just lectures. And then so fast forward, I met Greg Gray. Shout out to my frat Greg Gray here in Atlanta. Very charismatic guy. Oh my goodness. And he was the chapter president for New Mu Lambda. And he does a workshop like called why people don't listen to you or some why does it's more for like organizational leadership, but it's like why doesn't like your employees listen to the things you say or whatever. But whatever it was, he's really good. He's a corporate lecturer and speaker. And I went to his workshop and he had these workbooks and his presentation was so seamless. And I was like, I'm in love. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh man, like, so I immediately, and again, it was the workbook too. Like he had this guided workbook that it came like 8-page workbook, nicely formatted, and we can follow the presentation. And it was just awesome. Gave us room to write and different exercises. And I then had coffee with him and I was like, yo, how did you create your workbook? And I just got like really good advice on improving. I was like, I want to go in this lecture space and how do I, just get advice from him and stuff. And he just fed me so much. We met at M and Perk Coffee there in 044. I love that coffee shop. Shout out to M and Perk Coffee. And we fast forward, Doug, you attended one of my first public workshops because that happened in, I'm remembering these dates.
Yes, sir.
And I'm usually not one to remember. Spring, I think 17.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to say maybe it had to have been like that. I know it was March. I don't know if it was 17 or 16. I think it was 17. I did something at Lenox Mall. Yeah, Lenox Mall. I had the workbook then, and I just was, just again practicing this lecture, this workshop. And could you believe that I think that fall, I think I got my first paycheck because Young and Debt Free was started that January 2017. I like got the incorporation papers, or I should say like my LLC and
Mhm.
stuff like that, articles of organization. And then that fall, oh, Doug, this is a really good podcast. And I never even talked about this so thoroughly, which is good. My mind is sharp. That's that working out and that stuff that I'm doing.
Yes, sir.
So, and then that fall, I believe it's Clark Atlanta University. Someone tipped off Clark on my IG. And I don't know what I was doing on IG for the young men to tip off Clark, but Clark Atlanta Financial Literacy Program. Shout out to Lakeisha Landers at Clark Atlanta. She contacted me and gave me, and she was just so graceful and beautiful because she knew I was new. She could tell I didn't really know much.
No, you
Yeah,
good, bro. Keep talking, bro, man. We're gonna keep it raw in that cut, man.
she could tell I didn't know much, and she was like, "No, we're gonna pay you. We're gonna do this," and she was just getting me together. Like, you need to create this, that, and my first paid opportunity, was at Clark Atlanta University that fall. Yep. And so now I've taken that same basically workshop 4 years later, y'all. Talk about building a product or a program, or service, I should say. 4 years later, it has taken me to to really I'd say perfect it, but to continue to build it how it's built. And I'm happy about where it is, but this has been 4.5 years in the making. And it's crazy because I can go from my first slides, which you were able to see kind of the first days of what that looked like, all the way up to now. It's crazy, but I've built so much onto it. And yeah, I guess, and so much has happened even between that 4 years. But yeah, but that's where we at today.
Yes, sir. No,
Music videos, all kinds of stuff.
yes, sir. Nah, rocking and rolling, man. So yeah, man. So the aha moment was Monte mentioning a problem that he was having with his customers, and basically he told you to use your story and
Yes.
to start a brand. And sounds like, which is going to lead into my next point, the action step. How long did it take you from the time you got the idea to actually start the brand? Did it take? Sounds like it didn't take you very long. It took you a couple of years, maybe a year and some
Yeah,
change.
it didn't take very long. I respect what he says and things of that nature. And so it just wasn't, I immediately like maybe pondered on it, but it was the time was rolling. I like I said, I end up just having to be grade grade in a chapter, and then I just kept looking at other people's examples, and I feel like that was that fall, and the really fall shoot. January, I got the articles of organization when I figured out my name,
Mhm.
and then the first public one was that March, so that's just 6 months, and then wow, almost about a year later, I got my first paid gig. Yep.
And the reason why the action step is so important and why I always ask about it, man, is because a lot of people get stuck at the aha moment. They never make it to the action. So of course, any entrepreneur I have on this podcast, they clearly made it from the aha moment to the action, which leads me into the next point, the last point, the most important point, the audacity. It takes audacity, it takes courage to step out there to get from the
Oh yeah.
idea to actually starting the brand. Who or what, outside of Monte, who or what gave MJ Bridges the audacity to step out there and start a brand?
I gave myself the audacity.
Nice.
And it's because I understood my gifts. I understand more about who I am
Mhm.
and my strengths. And that's a whole process. I mean, from strengths finders, Gallup strengths finders, I love it, from to journaling. I've been journaling, I'm an avid journaler, been journaling for 5 years. So I'm a very self-reflective person, a person that is able to look himself in the mirror and say when I'm having I could be very transparent person. And all of that growth helped me see like, yo, I mean something to the world. I'm still very small in the world now, like very small. I'm just a small piece of this on this earth and in this universe. But this small piece of human that I am, I know has a purpose because I'm still here. And I've always tried to figure out, I guess, what that was through different practices. So that gave me the audacity. I kept saying to myself, I have talents and I have a skill set, and I don't want that to go to waste. Like I like it just I that's all, I always say that. Like I believe when I die, my time is gonna be done. And but while I'm here, I'm gonna do what I feel like, or what I know that I'm designed to do, and that's to lead and to teach. And but how to do it is use these gifts that I have, the connectedness that I mentioned with people, my futuristic visions to help people see visions for themselves and believe in themselves, and my positive thinking. I'm a very positive nut, and so those are things that that's a part of who I am. It's a part of my DNA, and so I say all that to say that gave me the audacity. Like, yo, I can go do this. I can do this. It's meant for me. And I'm very fortunate. I am really still doing what I went to school for. I'm teaching, and I'm moving out my 9 to 5 this year. And in the beginning
Congrats,
of the
bro.
year, oh, thank you, thank you. So it's my last year in this part of education. It's my 10th year, and so it's even symbolic with that. But in August, yeah, I was nervous about like, 'cause that it was in my mind like, this is it. I got to get out of this. And now we're recording this in November of 2021, and I ain't nervous anymore. Like I'm more though, I know that there's still gonna be some challenges, but I'm just like, bring it. Because I have come so far. It's a J. Cole song, Hillside. But this new album, shout out to Cole World. And
Yes,
so
sir.
I love that song, Hunger on the Hillside. I listen to that song. And I'm like, I'd be dead wrong if I was to give it up now. Like, look when
Mm.
I started. I've been fortunately, by the grace of God, having the best year I've had with Young and Debt Free this year in terms of financially, and not even financially, like getting more clients and things and reoccurring clients, but just the quality I'm proud of. Like how my lectures went from 2017 to now. Yeah. And I even got a music video I shot this year. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
Yes, sir.
so every time I even come on to the, even though they're virtual right now, I swear I wish they was live. I can't wait till we go back live because I'm tearing the stage up. But when I get introduced, but how I get introduced, it's a music video, and that stuff I will pat myself on the back for. I worked really, really hard to get to this point. And I just say all that to say to encourage people like I'm not rich yet, by no means. But to be methodical is just don't give up. Like for real. I mean, I know that's cliche, but real talk. And again, my methods of not giving up has been journaling,
Mhm.
working out, being just self-reflective, and just also being positive about like where you are. Like, don't beat yourself up too much. Keep it moving. Someone says no, keep it going. Learn how to improve your practices or whatever you're doing. And yeah.
No, man, that's awesome. I mean, and like even that audacity portion, you gave yourself the audacity. You basically said, "Hey, I belong. I'm good enough." And to be honest with you, that is that's more powerful than getting influence from outside people. So having the audacity and knowing within yourself, man, I can do this, man. I'm just as good as so and so. I have to start where I am to get to that level. But no, man, I commend you for having enough self confidence in yourself to build up that courage and that audacity. And even like you saying, man, the cliche, don't give up. No, it's not a cliche, man. Like those three simple words, man, they are powerful when you apply them. Like,
Mm,
man, don't give up. And even your positive thinking, I wouldn't even label it. I mean, yes, you can label it that, but what I'm hearing from you is gratitude. Like that's one of your superpowers. You have gratitude. You instead of thinking, oh man, that's a no, that's a door slammed in my face. Man, I'm grateful that I had the courage to put myself out there. Cause I mean, getting rejected, man, that's part of it. Like being an entrepreneur, like you're gonna have times where you wanna go teach at this school or you wanna, get with this program and they're gonna say no. And you just have to be grateful that you had the guts to at least stick your neck out there because if you never try, you never know. The answer gonna always be no if you never try. So hats off to you.
exactly. 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 And one thing I would do sometimes is I would say, okay, well, I did XYZ. Like, why can't I do this? Like I just would think like that. I already made it through that. So I mean, I'm gonna just use that same energy and make it through this.
Yes, sir. Nah, man, that's awesome. Let's talk about the long term vision of Young and Debt Free. What's coming down the pipeline? Like
Oh.
you've done a lot, man, in the short time that you've been rocking and rolling, and I commend you for it. But man, let's talk about the future. I mean, what the things you can talk about. If it's some other some private stuff you can't talk about business wise, don't do it. But what's coming down the pipeline in terms of workshops or
Mhm.
ebooks, things of that nature, man? What you got coming up?
Yeah. Well, I could talk a little bit about immediately. I think I need to do a nice little retreat to help my mind go a little further. And I say that as I just this past weekend, I talked to a few people, and one of them I'm going to get on the squad. So one, I'm trying to build a team eventually, because he's really good with programming and building out full length programs. So one thing in the future is to build out a full program. And I mean, when I say like full program, we're talking about like 6 months to a year versus me coming and kind of doing these well, I have like a lecture series where I do like 3 lectures over time, but we're talking about like a more program that's like detailed, is integrated, is maybe like helping high school students transition to college, and it's this financial literacy piece that's involved within it. So I'm partnering with school districts as well as colleges. So that's coming in the future, like where I'm gonna try to shoot for now. Um, uh, more clients under the college sector, or where I can help them transition from high school to college. Um, I also have a physical workbook coming out next year. That's really big. I know sometimes I get one of I'm okay, shout out to Dr. Russell. Met him at ASU, and now he's a director, works up at University of Alabama Birmingham. Been in my ear, you need a book, you need a book, you need a book, Melvin, you need a book, Melvin. Melvin is my real name, by the way, everyone. And so,
Yes, sir.
so, um, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to write like a book, but I am going to publish or have published a workbook. So that's going to be really cool to add to the services for not only my college clients, but when I get into the high school field, and it's going to be like a do-it-yourself type workbook. So I could say those things are coming. So like the workbook product, and then more of a long-term program. And I think sometime in 2022, building the team. Definitely, I need a team. Y'all, I've been doing all this for real. Just really, on my own. Like the graphics you see, like everything. And so I'm looking forward to figuring out what that looks like, a team. And um, so I'm just talking 2022, and then I'm gonna revamp the online course because to update the content and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm part of 2022. So that's where I am with that. That's a really good question because I know personally I want to get more into like a retreat mode. And maybe, you know what, Doug? Maybe me, you, and the other couple of people can, jump on like a 2 or 3 day retreat where it's just kind of like masterminding and, visions and things like that. So,
Yes, sir.
but that's where I am.
No, man. So, that's a great vision. Building the team and just continuing to polish the brand and get its number one in the world. Like that's what it
Yeah,
sounds like to me. You
yeah.
trying to do?
And it's full time. And then the part that I mentioned, just me going at it full time, and just the cool thing about the brand is that I live the brand. So I always imagine a young and debt free weekend as well. I just never put a date on that, but where it's encompassing not only financial literacy but mindfulness. I'm big on mindfulness with the journaling, and then also fitness. So I'm big in fitness. I'm a marathoner, ran a marathon through my debt free journey, and things like that. So, and putting all those components together would be really dope to have. So, yeah, so that's where we at.
Nah, man, good stuff, man. And as we wrap up the podcast, man, I want to ask you the $1 million question. I started this
Mhm.
podcast because I wanted to shed light on Montgomery and let people know that greatness has either come from Montgomery or through Montgomery. So let's talk about, in
Without a doubt.
particular, your 4 years in Montgomery. You were here at Alabama State. So we'll tailor this question to Alabama State. What did you learn at Alabama State during your time at Alabama State University that you've been able to apply to your life that's carried you to the point you are now?
Oh man, that is $1 million question. How do I answer that?
Just one impactful thing that you got during your time at ASU, bro, that you've been able to apply.
Exposure.
Okay.
And I'll say this. I told you where I come from. And I remember going to Alabama State and first seeing all the black people. And I was like, what in the world? And I knew I was going to HBCU, but I grew up having only two teachers that looked like me. Well, three. I had two black teachers in third grade and one in 12th grade. So I think going to a HBCU, Alabama State in particular, you just seeing that I never took any of that for granted. I remember walking through the Union, the old Union, by the way, shout out to Alabama State. And Al Green was playing, right? And something made me stop. It was just playing, on the speaker, soft music. And I'm just like, Al Green really playing. Where I'm from, you just don't hear that walking into any public building, and so you hear like Al Green, some type of black music or have some type of, hip hop or whatever. And I didn't take that for granted. So that to me was exposure that these places really existed. And then I took advantage of a lot of opportunities. I was able to travel like heck. I was exposed to my fraternity world, who I'm so fond of the frat. I love the frat, and I love even consider myself a frat guy. Like, yeah, I'm like a real life frat boy. Like, I say that all the time. I'm a frat boy. And then the research opportunities. I think it was just like it exposed me to a lot, and because I've always been interested in learning and education, I was just engulfed in it all. I mean, you saw me at state.
Yes,
I
sir.
was involved in so many things, and it got overwhelming for a while, but that those experiences have definitely guided me outside of, once I left.
Man, that's awesome, man. Hey, that's so no, man, that's awesome, man. Like basically coming through Montgomery, it gave you that exposure, you built relationships and the skills you learned at Alabama State, man, you've been able to carry them with you.
Indeed, bro. I'll tell
Awesome.
you.
No, man. I mean, like I said, man, like that's what it's all about, man. Just shedding light on Montgomery and um, good stuff, man. ASU gave you a sounds like ASU gave you a foundation, and man, I know you're so fond of the school. Like, man, you've been talking about like I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but we got had our first homecoming this year. Man, you was ranting about that for years, man. So I know ASU definitely had an impact on you, man, because man, you show so much love to the school, man, and definitely appreciate you shedding light on Montgomery with what you just said about your time at Alabama State.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you, bro. It's the Gump Town podcast. So all
Yes, sir.
day. And I love the Gump, man. That's my second home. So that's where I became another person, a version of myself. I was just a good version of myself is in Montgomery, Alabama. So
Yes, sir.
thank you to everybody from the Gump.
Yes, sir. So how can the people connect with you, man? What are your social media handles?
The
Facebook and
best
IG.
way, because I'm gonna be lit on TikTok sometime soon,
Okay.
but right now just focus on Instagram at Young and Debt Free ATL. So spelled out Young and Debt Free ATL. Of course, my website younganddebtfree.com. You can find me as well. But right now, we're on Instagram at Young and Debt Free ATL.
Okay. Yes, sir. And of course, I'll put this in the description of the episode. MJ, bro, thank you again, man, for taking time out of your schedule to chop it up with me, man. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Good people. That concludes another dope episode of the Gumtown Podcast. We gone, but before we leave, remember, be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Gone. Thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. Until next time.